Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're taking a look at the new crazy legacy move that was just given to Blacephalon, Mind Blown. Mind Blown is a fire type charge attack, and its damage per energy is insane. 90 damage, only 35 energy, the second most efficient charge attack in the entire game behind Clanging Scales. However, like Clanging Scales, there's a cost. When you throw Mind Blown, you immediately get -4 to your defense, meaning that unless you switch out, you're going to get instantly deleted by fast move pressure. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and take a look at Mind Blown Blacephalon in some Ultra League practice battles. And we pick up a very nice lead in the first match, Shadow Malamar into Wall Rain. Anytime something new and fun comes out for the Ultra League, I find myself gravitating towards pairing it up with Shadow Malamar and Corviknight. To me, it's just one of the safest cores that you can run. Both have really consistent damage output, and they have really nice bulk as well. And that means for a Pokemon like Blacephalon, you really want your other two Pokemon to be able to function without having to burn all your shields, because Blacephalon is an incredibly glassy Pokemon. Here I farm up to the back-to-back superpowers, opponent calls the bait, and gets KO'd. In comes Virizion, and I'm pivoting out, sending in Corviknight. Corviknight gonna be answered now with a Shadow Ampharos. Ampharos can survive the payback, but it's gonna be hitting for some pretty significant damage. Shield comes up from Ampharos. Ampharos continues to farm. A Thunder Punch will not take the knockout here. I will be able to hang on, and I still have a superpower locked and loaded. They go for the back-to-back brutal swings. I don't think I'm surviving the second, but now it's time. Send in the Clown. In comes Blacephalon, and look at those Volt Switches go. In comes Virizion. It's basically full HP, but look at this. Mind Blown takes the knockout. Happy New Year. Look at that animation. Look at how much damage I just took from the Volt Switch. Blacephalon is already one of the glassiest Pokemon in the game. So you take one of the glassiest Pokemon in the game, and then you reduce its defense by 4 stages, and it gets absolutely deleted. But Mind Blown takes the knockout, and we get the Game 1 win. We see a Core Breaker on the lead in game number 2, leading Shadow Malamar into Pangoro. Pangoro is a big problem. It's going to beat Blacephalon, and it's going to beat Malamar. Foul play bait does pay off. Pangoro farms up a ton of energy, and I decide to respect the close combat. I'm going to throw one Psywave switch into Blacephalon, catch the close combat, and sneak through an entire Incinerate. Close combat, double resisted, still does big damage. In comes Licky Licky, and I make a crucial mistake. I should have thrown 2 Incinerates before the Mind Blown instead of 1, because now I'm at -4 and I can't survive the rollouts and I get fully farmed down. Had I thrown 2 in the move, I could have actually made it to a second Mind Blown. So that's just a bit of inexperience using the Mon on my part. Licky Licky will be firing off Shadow Balls at the Corviknight. Realistically, if I want a chance to win this game, it's going to be with Shadow Malamar. Shadow Malamar does have quite a bit of stored energy on it. It's just shy of a charge attack. I'm going to farm up, go for the Air Cutter, hoping Air Cutter is going to be enough to knock out here, but Licky Licky is very bulky. Licky Licky hangs on in the back. It's Florges, and this is absolutely awful. I kind of need a boost now if I want a chance. Air Cutter lands, no boost comes through, and I immediately go for Air Cutter number 2. I have a second chance at a boost. Air Cutter lands. This time we get the boost, and that is very, very helpful. I need damage on this Pokemon, and I need it now, because Malamar really does not want to have to deal with Florges. Thankfully, because I was able to get the boost, I've undone the effects of the Chilling Water, and my Air Cutter still hits pretty hard. This is going to be a very close game. I have to decide, do I try and commit to a farm down with the Malamar and get debuffed, or do I throw energy? I decide to throw energy. This way, if my opponent wants the debuff, they're going to have to shield, and the Pangoro should be pretty low. It took an Incinerate at -4. And my theory is correct. It looks like I can Psywave down the Pangoro. It's going to be very, very close. Pangoro, Night Slash gets the shield. Oh no, but Licky Licky had a move. And suddenly, things could get a little bit tricky. Body Slam lands. Malamar gets the farm down. This is going to be close. Malamar farms up to the back-to-back charge attacks. And I believe I survived that Karate Chop on 1 HP. Yes, I did, and against all odds, we take the win. Shadow Malamar superpowers Pangoro, and that's a good game. Great lead in the next match, Shadow Malamar into Como-O. Opponent safe switches into Corviknight, and I don't have a great response to a Corviknight safe swap. One could potentially consider sending in Blacephalon, but I know I'm going to get absolutely deleted by the sand attacks. So instead, I go for the safer play, which is Superpower, and then switch into my own Corviknight. I want to try and overfarm as much as possible in this matchup because I know the switch clocks are misaligned, and my opponent could probably try and go for a payback catch back onto the Como-O. My opponent switches, but that's not into the Como-O, instead it's into Togekiss. Togekiss could make things a little bit tricky here. I'm farming up, waiting for my switch clock to be up. We switch and catch the Aura Sphere onto Blacephalon. Double resisted catch number 2, and the Incinerate sneaks. These pecks are shredding Blacephalon, but man, that catch, I think, just put us back in the driver's seat of this game. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get a farm down here. My opponent would have made it to another Psyshock, so I'm forced to fire off the Mind Blown. I'm now at -4 defense. That animation just does not get old. That is incredible. In comes Como-O. I fire off the Mind Blown, and then I'm looking to pivot. I'm at -4 defense, so I need to switch out. In comes Corviknight, and Corviknight goes for the Air Cutter. Air Cutter lands. I do get the boost, so a bit of good luck does go my way. Now, suddenly, this Air Cutter is way more threatening than it would have been before. Air Cutter lands, they send in Corviknight, and I'm going straight for the payback. Boosted payback is going to hurt. This is going to deal some serious damage, rocking that shiny Corviknight. Corviknight throws at the absolute last second. They're basically on 1 HP, so I should be able to send in the Malamar, snipe down with the Psywave, and take home the win. They get the boost, but unfortunately, it's too little too late. You know what? Let's take the KO with Blacephalon. Clanging Scales lands. That's the most efficient charge attack in the game. We have the second most efficient charge attack in the game. We Incinerate down and take the win. Great lead in the next match, leading into Tentacruel. My opponent save switches into Regidrago, and man, we could not ask for much of a better start to this game. Regidrago is completely walled off by the Corviknight, and I know that one payback will not take the knockout, so after absorbing a bunch of Clanging Scales, I will look to go for an Air Cutter. This allows me to fish for a boost. Again, it's a 30% chance, so if you throw 2 Air Cutters, then you end up right around 50-50 odds that one of your Air Cutters will boost. My opponent goes for yet another Dragon Energy. This is actually going to be getting me pretty low. Here, I do want to take the knockout, and I think an Air Cutter would miss the KO, so I will fire off the payback. Payback does get shielded. My opponent really trying to make a play for Switch Advantage. Switch Advantage, losing it would be a little bit tough for me. Air Cutter is going to connect, not taking the knockout, and I snipe them with the foul play. Now, they either have to lose all their energy or give me their final shield. My opponent ends up just letting the energy go, and in comes Guzzlord. The good news is all that Regidrago energy that they had banked is gone. The bad news for me is that where is my Blacephalon supposed to go? They have a Guzzlord and a Tentacruel. This is very bad. Superpower absolutely rocks the Guzzlord. Guzzlord gonna be putting up the shield, and they have so much stored energy. They had 4 Dragon Tails of energy, and that means they can go 1 in the move, 1 in the move, and force both of my shields, and then look to pivot out into the Tentacruel. Just like that, in a split second, I go from 2 shields to 0. If they stay in, I can farm them down. They pivot out, and in comes Tentacruel. And this is actually a Poison Sting Tentacruel, which means, unfortunately, they're going to outpace me here. I try and get to the Shadow Ball. I cannot get there, and I'm getting KO'd by Scald. The bad news for me is I'm so low on everything. In comes the Corviknight. Corviknight not going to get Poison Stung down. I switch in the Malamar, and oh my goodness, is this one Sand Attack range? It's going to be close. I think it is. In comes Corviknight. They pivot into the Guzzlord, but I have the Air Cutter. Air Cutter, is it going to be enough to KO the Guzzlord? The answer is yes. We farm down Tentacruel and clutch an incredible win with 1 HP remaining. Bit of a neutral lead in the next match, Shadow Malamar into Regidrago. Regidrago is often paired with Steels in the back, which I would really like to see considering I have a Blacephalon. Foul Play lands doing some pretty nice damage, but they're going to return fire with Dragon Energy, and this is going to absolutely rock the Malamar. Man, that charge attack is incredibly bright. After the blinding aura fades from Dragon Energy, we take the knockout with Foul Play just to immediately lose the game as Feraligatr gets the perfect farm down, and I'm unable to get my superpower. This is absolutely awful. Feraligatr, it's just going to sweep me. The only way that I can win is, at this point, I don't even know what could happen. Maybe for some reason they blind switch a Virizion and I can farm it down, but at this point, there's just no path forward. My opponent in the back has a Florges, and yeah, unfortunately, there was just no way to win. Feraligatr was too strong into my back line. Florges Chilling Water. Blacephalon barely hangs on. I wonder how much a -1 Mind Blown would do here. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to find out, as Mind Blown does get shielded, and the moment that I throw this Air Cutter, I know the game is already over. Even if I got the boost, there's no path forward for me because there's still a very, very healthy Feraligatr. So I decide, after one more Air Cutter, I'm not going to waste anyone's time and I'm just going to stop throwing them. So I throw that Air Cutter. It does less than nothing, and I'm just going to let myself get KO'd here and lose this game. So we tried to make it as close as we could, but that Feraligatr, what a farm down from the opponent. That set themselves up very well. We see a very bad lead in the next match. Shadow Malamar into Shadow Drapion. Drapion has pretty strong play into this entire team, as even against my Corviknight, Crunch will still hit for some pretty significant damage. Superpower is going to be getting the Drapion low. It lands, which is good, and I send in the Corviknight. Corviknight answered with Licky, and my opponent just has so much bulk on their team. This is going to be a problem. If I want a chance in this game, it starts now with an Air Cutter boost. And the luck is on my side. I get the Air Cutter boost, and suddenly we might be in business. Shadow Ball is going to hurt. The opponent goes for an Earthquake. It appears they brought the wrong Licky. My guess is maybe this was their first game of Ultra League in a while, and they hadn't TM'd the Licky from back in the day when it ran Earthquake, because now, unfortunately, they're actually walled here. Earthquake is going to land. My opponent pivots into Umbreon, and I just can't win this game. Unfortunately, they have 3 Pokemon that beat Blacephalon. I'm going to stay in with the boosted Corviknight, just spamming out as many Air Cutters as I possibly can. I do get another boost, but Umbreon is just insanely tanky in the Ultra League. I can throw so many charge attacks at it, and Umbreon just simply will not care. The good news is if they overfarm, I will get another Air Cutter and get them very low, but they click on the move right away, and unfortunately, that Air Cutter is lost. I'm going to be bringing back in the Malamar. Opponent pivots into the Drapion, but there's just no way for me to win this game. The Drapion is unfortunately not in 1 Incinerate range. They hang on, they make the Aqua Tail, and I'm forced to burn a shield. Blacephalon shielding up. I do have a Mind Blown, but the moment I throw it, my defense stat is going to be shredded. My opponent sends in Licky. Wait, there might be a chance. I shield up. I get the farm down. I have 100 energy, and I think the Umbreon is dry. They bring in the Umbreon. I wait 2 turns to let the Snarl land and click Mind Blown. Mind Blown gets the shield. I'm getting deleted by the Snarls, but I get back-to-back Mind Blowns. I can't believe it. 3 Blacephalon counters are not enough. Blacephalon KOs Umbreon, and that's a good game. We see a terrible lead in the next match. Shadow Malamar into Clefable. I'm going to bank some energy and then save switch into my Corviknight. Clefable stays in and throws energy, and this is really good news for me. This means my opponent does not have a good answer to Corviknight. Corviknight gets hit with the Moonblast. Moonblast not going to do much. My opponent goes for the mirror as they send in their own Corviknight. Their Corviknight is going to be hit with the payback that does do some pretty sizable damage. Ideally, I want to try and bank 100 energy and then pivot out of this matchup. So I farm up. I'm pretty close to 100. My opponent will connect with the payback. Now I can pivot out and send in Malamar. If this game is going to be won, it's going to be won by playing aggressive, desyncing the switch timers, and trying to make life for my opponent as difficult as humanly possible. Switch clocks up, in comes Clefable, and I win charge attack priority over the Clefable as I fire off Superpower. Superpower does land. I'm just going to let the Malamar go. Malamar has definitely done its job. Meteor Mash is going to set up a farm down for my opponent, and this is not good. Clefable is loaded. In comes Blacephalon. Even though I resist everything they throw, Meteor Mash or Moonblast are probably still going to destroy me. Meteor Mash does over half my HP. I just can't get that Incinerate farm down, and I expect they're going to snipe. So I undertap the Mind Blown as they bring in the Corviknight, and Corviknight is now in a bit of an awkward spot where they're forced to shield. But I'm not staying in. My defense is debuffed. I switch into the Corviknight. I fire off the Air Cutter bait. They no shield. I get the boost, and I go for another Air Cutter. This will be taking the knockout. They banked a ton of energy on the Corviknight, and now they've lost it. But in the back is Malamar, and unfortunately, there's no path forward unless my opponent shields. I go for the bait. I need the shield and the boost. I get the boost, but I don't get the shield. And that, I think, unfortunately, is going to be game over unless I can farm this into 1 Incinerate range, and I just think it's going to be too healthy. We managed to get it somewhat close, but my opponent had a lot of bulk on their team, and that's not what Blacephalon wants to see. Incinerate lands, Malamar tanks that very comfortably. I know they have well over the back-to-back, so I'm not going to waste anyone's time. I no shield, and we lose the game. Hopping into the final match, leading Shadow Malamar into a Hex Skeleturge. Now, Hex, definitely some spicy tech, not the moveset that I would recommend. Skeleturge is definitely going to prefer Incinerate. Hex does give faster pacing to moves like Shadow Ball, but unfortunately, even with that pacing, it's still not going to allow the Skeleturge to beat Malamar. Malamar, just consistent 10-turn pacing is just so incredibly good. Malamar double shielding here as my opponent is already boosted. I cannot afford to let a Shadow Ball through. They bait once again, but they're just getting KO'd. And because Hex doesn't really do any damage, my Malamar is still over half HP. My opponent sends out Guzzlord. Guzzlord will fire off a Brutal Swing, but Brutal Swing is not going to be taking the knockout. Brutal Swing is going to land. Opponent tries to snipe with Feraligatr, but I'm able to react in time, superpower the Feraligatr, and then just let myself get farmed down. I want to retain the ability to switch because I see a win con, and it's going to be a weird one. Feraligatr Hydro Cannon is going to land. I'm going to throw exactly 3 Sand attacks and then go for the Air Cutter. This puts them at 2 Shadow Claws of energy, 3 away from the move. I get them low, I switch in Blacephalon, and I snipe down with Incinerate. In comes the Guzzlord, and Guzzlord's in a very tricky spot. If they throw the Brutal Swing to knock me out, then they don't have enough energy to take the win against the Corviknight. So they try for a farm down, and they do not get it. Even at -4 defense, Blacephalon hangs on. Mind Blown gets the 2-shot, and that is a good game. And now some final thoughts on Mind Blown and Blacephalon's viability. Well, it is still a Blacephalon, so in my eyes, it's definitely not a meta-viable Pokemon. However, Mind Blown is an incredibly fun addition to Blacephalon. Anytime you have a Pokemon with stats like Blacephalon, it's really going to struggle to see any kind of viability. So you can get away with giving some of these Pokemon that have really cursed stats some really incredibly overpowered moves, and that's exactly what they've done here with Mind Blown. This is some of my favorite kind of game design. Finding creative ways to improve Pokemon that, for one reason or another, are just kind of doomed in terms of the tools that they're given. Whether it's an atrocious stat product, like for Blacephalon, and atrocious typing for some mons, you can get away with giving them really good movesets to work with, just because there's so much else wrong that it won't break the game to do so. So honestly, I think over the battles I went 6-2 or 7-2 running Blacephalon, which absolutely shocked me. Granted, I had it paired up with 2 strong meta Pokemon in Shadow Malamar and Corviknight, but even still, I really felt like Blacephalon was able to take a lot of knockouts in this game. We did get some pretty crazy catches too, catching a couple fighting moves and getting some Incinerate sneaks along the way, but when trying out Blacephalon, I really didn't have high hopes. I was very worried that this was going to be a video filled with a bunch of losses and a bunch of me being like, man, if only Blacephalon had a real stat product. But I think Mind Blown with the stats they gave it and with the downside that they gave it actually ends up being a pretty balanced move considering the Pokemon that it's on, which is Blacephalon. On basically any other Pokemon, it would be absurdly broken and too good, but on a Pokemon as flawed as Blacephalon, it actually ends up making Blacephalon into a pretty fun Pokemon to use. It's definitely not a Pokemon recommended if you care about your elo, but if you're just looking to have some fun battles and just blast people with Mind Blowns, then honestly, Blacephalon is an absolute riot. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. Thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.